Divine Decode, we are opening a sacred portal into the world of healing, not just for ourselves, but for the animal souls who walk beside us every day. Our guest is Dr. Jeff Feinman, a pioneer in holistic veterinary care whose work beautifully weaves together science, spirit, and deep emotional intelligence. From decoding pet symptoms as messages to using energy healing and his signature beam method, he's showing us that caring for our pets is also a path to remembering ourselves. So let's lean in and listen to our animals, to our hearts, and to the healing that lives in between. Welcome to the podcast, Jeff.
Thank you for having me. It is an honor and a pleasure to be here. Thank you, thank you.
Yeah, that's great. So, Jeff, your philosophy, it invites us to work with pet symptoms rather than battle them, right? So, what do these symptoms really reflect about what's going on inside our animals and sometimes even within us?
That's a great place to start because I think that seeing symptoms as not something to fear, but rather as clues to what's going on within our animals and within us and within the whole energetic field of our lives is going to be fundamentally important because we in conventional medicine and veterinary medicine see symptoms as a problem to be fixed when in homeopathy and in my life we see symptoms as a gateway into healing, deep healing, and then they are. Symptoms are a direct manifestation of spirit. Spirit and energy, when they're imbalanced in the individual, manifest as symptoms. Symptoms are not problems, symptoms are our friends.
So rightly said. Could their symptoms actually be reflecting something out of balance in the environment or even within the caregiver?
Absolutely, and we see it all the time. An animal that was well balanced and in good health until there was some issue or problem in the household, where there's anxiety or uncertainty or any change is going to affect our animals because our emotions and our an energy, just like the energy of love. The energy of love is the most healing energy, and on the other side of the fence, the energy of anxiety, the energy of uncertainty, of anger. Those are all things that can affect our animals greatly, and they do. They do. The only question is to what degree does it affect them? And that is the second part of my book, The Path to Pet Wellness, is the first part is significance of symptoms. The second part is seeing signs of susceptibility. And the more susceptible, the more sensitive they are to energy or any stressor, the more susceptible they are, the more likely they are to show symptoms.
Yeah, I totally agree. And we can also agree on it that they are literally like spiritual feedback loops in furs and in, just different forms. Okay, so let's talk about BEAM blueprint, which is behavior, energy, appetite, and mood. How do these become more than checklists and turn into a real wellness compass in your model?
Thank you for asking because Beam, well, that's right, we're not on video, but Beam is behind me on the wall because everything is about Beam. And Beam, I like to think of Beam like the lighthouse beam of light that guides us safety. Beam is reflective of the balance of the energy in the individual. So behavior, energy, appetite, and mood reflect the quality of life of the animal. And it's time for us to start focusing on quality of life and not being worried about the individual symptoms. Because the symptoms are clues that lead us to optimizing ways to optimize the quality of life and being. Many of our community journaled the beam score on a 1 to 10 scale every day, where 10 is 100% a normal dog having a normal day, and a 1 is a very sick cat or horse or any animal. When I report to my own homeopath, the first thing I report is my beam.
Yeah, that is really a very practical and very good way to, keep a record and just have a check. So, what are some subtle shifts that we can start noticing before it becomes like a full-blown health crisis?
And that is right there, that is the key is early detection of an imbalance. You can pick it up before it becomes a health crisis. And that's why I say that our animals are trying to give us an SOS. SOS. As in an emergency, this is something you need to deal with right away. And SOS to me stands for significant symptoms. And the answer to your question is what are the signs of susceptibility? And that's the other SOS. So the signs of susceptibility are things that we often, by we, I mean mainly veterinarians, but we often call them normal. Things like a bit of eye discharge or a bit of red ears or red ear discharge or little things that we call normal, but those things are common but not normal. And those are the things that we can use as clues to figure out what to do about the imbalance internally. And as you may know, that is the basis of homeopathy. It's those clues are pointers to homeopathic medicines that help rebalance the energy.
Right, right. It's also just like a language of wellness that we often forget to read, right? Like animal wisdom, it has to meet gentle science at this point because it matters, it really does. You often talk about restoring natural vitality and balance, which is so rare in our quick fix culture, right? Where do we even begin with that? Especially if we talk about it holistically. So, where to begin with that?
Where to begin? I guess we begin at the beginning, and the beginning is by knowing what is possible by the healing process, not labeling. Oh, my animal has this label, and that automatically limits what we can expect. So by knowing what is possible by healing is going to tell us where to begin. And that is the goal that we always try to go for is what is possible. What is possible is basically a natural, inborn thing that all animals, all nature, all life really is designed for, and that is regaining balance, regaining equilibrium, regaining homeostasis. And when we regain that, when they regain that, they become more resilient and less susceptible. So that's kind of how I begin to approach that. And that's how we teach to our members that holistic actions are all taught that method online at holistic actions.
Right, right. A good way to start with and to begin with. There are some rituals and practices like grounding practices that should be there, right, in every household for every pet. Okay, so what according to you should be a daily ritual or that grounding practice that you feel every pet household should follow or just should take care of?
Yeah, that's a really important thing because that speaks to meeting people where they are. And I agree with you that, I mean, every day when I see and touch and interact with my own rescue pup who came to me with horrible, horrible fears and problems, I'm always grounding her energetically. But that's a little bit beyond the scope of where I think every household in the US at least would be. But where they are, where they can start is by feeding fresh food. Fresh food versus processed food. You know, in the US we focus on canned and dried dog and cat foods which have been devitalized. So, you know, the first thing that I would recommend to everybody is feeding fresh food to your animals and feeding them the way that they eat in the wild and the way that we eat, which is in variety. Feeding a different thing every day. And what that will do is also achieve the balance that we all need in our diet. You know, feeding fresh food in the past decade or so. I've been a vet for 40 years, and only in the past decade or so has that become a really popular thing that most pet parents are beginning to get on board with, but still about 40%, 50% of people think that food out of a bag or out of a can are okay, but those are the same people that think it's okay to eat at McDonald's every day or eat fast food every day, and that's pretty much what we're feeding our pets. I just listened to an interview with Tom Lonsdale, who's a veterinarian in Australia, and he focuses on the bones, it's a raw meaty bone diet. And that is a more natural diet, raw meaty bones, and that's something that everybody can do. I introduced their animals, but that's where I begin. The second point, which is related to the first, is happiness. There are many dogs, many cats, especially even more cats that are like, yeah, the food, maybe I'll eat it because we're offering them only dry food or wet food. When we offer them real meat or something that they're naturally that they are naturally exposed to, then they enjoy and they love their meals. And that love and that happiness is a factor that raises the vitality of the individual. And of course, it raises the quality of life as well.
Yes, I totally agree with this. Actually, when I had my pet dog, he really was, he was a very, expressive with how he wanted his food. So it was more like we had these options wherein we had to ask him, and every time it has to be a new. meal or a dish for him. So that is what really, really made him happy. And yeah, it was also a part of our therapy because that is what all of us enjoyed.
And that was the next thing I was going to bring up is feeding can be like meditation for us. And I'm holding up a platter
Hmm.
that basically when I feed my pets, both dogs and cats, it takes me 5 minutes to prepare their. I feed a raw diet. It gets meditatively spread along the ridges and in the holes, and it's like a meditation for me, and I get in better balance, and my animals are in better balance as a result of the feeding process.
Yes, yes. And rightly said, it also, helps them with their health and aging as well. We have learned that your practice it blends molecular biology, energy healing, and homeopathy, modalities that many see as totally separate, right? All of these are really separate. So how do they all live together in your approach?
Molecular biology is breaking down the body into all the little parts. How are the molecules behaving? And now in medicine, we focus on those molecular changes at a microscopic level instead of looking at the bigger picture. And that's what homeopathy does beautifully. But homeopathy changes the molecular nature of the way the body is working. So, for example, we may know in molecular biology that when there's a liver problem, there are certain enzyme systems that are working properly. Yet, when we look at the bigger picture homeopathically, the symptoms are clues to what's going on a molecular level. And when we use the right homeopathic medicines, it rebalances the molecular biology of the individual. So they work together beautifully. It's one and the other. It's the middle path. It's the middle path where we see both sides, but we walk down the middle.
Yes, yes. Yeah, that's insightful. That's really insightful. Um, so do you ever face resistance, like from traditional vets or even pet parents? And how do you gently just shift that skepticism?
Yeah, that's really, that is a very big issue. And the very best way that we found to shift that skepticism is the evidence of that it works. So there's a quote by Nassim Taleb that's what's irrational is what works. So we may not know exactly, and homeopathy is a great example. We may not know exactly how it's working at the molecular level, yet our patients get better. And I'll give you a quick example. Back in the 1800s, when there were all these fatal epidemics, patients of homeopaths were living and everyone else was dying. Well, the MDs of the time realized that something was working that they didn't know anything about. So many of them became homeopaths. But now medicine is focused more on the molecular level, focused more on the reductionistic level. So, homeopathy is fallen out of favor again, but it will be back because it is such a powerful medicine and that will empower the healing process and it will empower you as pet parents because you'll be able to figure out what's going on depending on now what remedies to give, but that's why you work with the veterinary homeopath.
True. Even here in India, homeopathy is it's like this one thing that all of us really trust. But as you said, as you mentioned, that medicines nowadays are more on molecular levels. So yeah, people don't actually go for homeopathy. It's like they just want quick results. But for long run, it is rightly said that it helps. Um, yeah.
And that's another really important point is that we're going for deep healing so the problems don't keep coming back. We're trying to fix the root of the disease. And like all of nature, it may take time. It will take time. Nature doesn't act quickly all the time. We need to respect the timeline of nature and not the made up quick fix mentality that we're used to. And that's a really hard shift to make.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I really like how you speak about conscious connection with animals and how you connect with animals. So, what is that one, not just one way, just how can we deepen communication beyond words, spiritually, energetically, or even somatically? How can we do that?
Well, I'll give you two ways. One is by their symptoms, because the symptoms are a spiritual manifestation of what's going on the physical level. The other way is what I call my lat framework. A lat, as in the latissimus dorsi, or muscles that we go to the gym to work out with the lat, something called the lat pull down. Well, lat stands for listen, accept, and trust. So when it comes to communicating with our animals, the very first and most important step is to listen. Listen to what your voice in your heart is saying. Listen to what you think their body language is saying. Listen to all things that we're told to shut out in this day and age. But close your eyes and just listen. Take a few conscious breaths and trust your gut, because nobody knows your animal as well as you, the pet parent. You're with them 24/7. You are sharing energy fields with them 24/7. Go to the vet, for if it's at 15 minutes, we can define what's going on at that time. But it's like the difference between a photograph and a movie. A movie is going to show the dynamic changes throughout time, whereas a photograph just shows one picture of what's going on at that moment. But if we listen, can be able to tell more about what's going on, over the days, weeks, months, and years.
That's really a nice step to take towards it. And yeah, listening to anything that they say and how they behave, it really helps. It does. Um, is there a personal story that you would like to share that just stayed with you and it still stays with you, where like a pet helped lead the healing journey of a human?
Oh, I would have a bunch of them, but I'll just end with again Maya. My own dog is right over there. She was the rescue dog that came in November. She was never socialized. She was born in a shelter. Came to me at 4 months of age. She couldn't walk through a door. She couldn't walk upstairs. She was scared of everything. And really just by listening to her, by watching what she wanted, by respecting affecting her choices. I've been able to bring her to the point where she's among the happiest dogs that I know. And
Dr. Jeff reminds us that our pets aren't just cuddly companions, they are healers, guides, and portals to a more connected way of living. When we decode their behaviors with compassion instead of control, we begin decoding deeper parts of ourselves too. So, next time your furry friend acts a little off, don't pull away. Lean in. They might just be showing you the way back home. Signing off as your host, Pragya Malya.